Hello, my name is Keith Stanley. I'm the Executive Director of the Near West Side Partners. I am joined by a special guest. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Hi there all. I'm Chris Corkery. I'm the president of Planet to Plate and CEO of Planet to Plate, sorry. And really excited to be here with you, Keith.
As you can imagine, our world has changed over the past few months. And so usually Chris and I would be sitting down in the office somewhere, maybe the Ambassador Hotel, but we're doing this remotely, which is totally fine because the weather is still nice. And also in light of everything that's going on in our country, this is the still an appropriate time to discuss business. The Near West Side, we're always excited about bringing business to our community. We want to address issues like access to fresh food, economic blight, job creation. And Chris has an idea, a concept that he's been working on diligently for several years. Even you might even say decades, Chris. That if we can bring it to the Near West Side, could have a major impact, not just in the Near West Side, but across the city, across the state, and possibly across this country. So, Chris, what is Planet to Plate?
Well, thanks again, Keith. And yeah, I appreciate it. This is something kind of long overdue and in the making. We often joke that while we're a new business with a novel concept, we're applying some really old business principles and philosophies that have been around since something as simple as growing food and selling it and feeding your neighbor. The short version of our organization, the short description, is that we're a community-focused green real estate developer. That basically means we're committed to the development work that brings together green infrastructure, job creation, project-based learning, and food security. We believe in particular that we can foster a symbiotic ecosystem of businesses and community groups to achieve these goals. A broader approach is that really simply, we want to help cities, and we really want to start with Milwaukee. And we think Milwaukee is an organization, as a city, can foster an organization like ours and the goals that we have by growing fresh food locally, creating those good jobs into resilient long-term careers, and providing space for local food entrepreneurs. Most importantly, it's about partnering with the community organizations to educate not just kids, but the general public so that there's a shift in consumer behavior. And that's a real challenge. And we also think it's a responsibility for the real estate development businesses that are out there. We're talking about reimagining older buildings as food hubs, indoor farms, and experiential learning centers. And in this way, we can grow food safely right where it's going to be consumed, right where it's going to be sold. And you create a circular economy. And there's personal agency for people in that neighborhood to participate. And only that way can you really help revitalize certain distressed areas and prevent displacement.
You know what? In the headlines in the past few weeks, months, there's been discussion about the supply chain and how that COVID-19 and the era that we're in has really shed a light on our supply chain as far as food. Because we're so dependent and we're so efficient that if anything was to disrupt that supply chain, people can't get the food that they need. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on this concept and how that concept, growing food locally, buying locally, empowering local communities to have some control over their food supply. Any thoughts to that? I know that's not necessarily on your radar. I mean, on our what we talked about, but I would love to just get your thoughts.
No, I mean, what you're talking about, Keith, is a point of relevance. And unfortunately, our organization as a business and as a mission has become more relevant than ever. And I say unfortunately because we didn't want a crisis to have to point that out. And another thing that you mentioned is that we've become efficient, right? The supply chain has become efficient. Well, what that really means is that it's become a profit center. We have figured out how to centralize and squeak out every penny possible within the food systems and on the basis of maximizing dollars. I'm sorry, but we're entering into a new age where some of those dollars, some of those folks receiving it, they have to take a haircut at the top because it's not healthy. It's fragile, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible. And our focus as a holistic developer beyond the bricks and mortar is really around what supply chain resilience means. We are in the business of food. That's our medium. That's our passion. That's where some of my professional background is in. But there's a lot of issues around supply chains, not just with food. For the purposes of our conversation and our application, it's a binding agent. It's universal. You need it. Otherwise, you can't go on living. And it shouldn't become an economy of class warfare. In fact, it should be more democratized. And I think that's what this is doing. This is pulling back the veil, and it's showing us how irresponsibly fragile it was and that it needs to be decentralized. There needs to be personal agency. There needs to actually be a little bit less profit margin for the insurance of a safer, healthier community.
Mm. This is so exciting, man, because I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying, and like you said, unfortunately, this has this era of COVID-19 has shown the spotlight, shined the spotlight on some things that are really negatively impacting our communities and cities across this country. So all I can say is kudos, and I really appreciate the fact that you look sounds like you've been thinking about this and really trying to figure this out. For us, from the urban perspective, I just know that a lot of our people who are in the near west side, they struggle to get access to the greens, the produce, the fresh food that so many people say that we should be eating. And there's only a limited amount of folks who sell it. Those who sell it, because they don't sell a lot of it, they charge a higher price. And that just makes it difficult for our community to live a healthier life. I want to move on, though. I want to talk about your vision for 27th and Wells. That I'm pretty excited about, what I've seen and what I've heard so far. 27th and Wells, large stretch of 27th Street has been pretty much vacant for the past couple of years. But you have a vision that can actually bring some life back to one of our most important commercial corridors. So I would love to get your thoughts on that. Feel free, man. Just go
Yeah,
right ahead.
yeah. I'll riff. We're out of towners, so while that sometimes can be a challenge in a small town, um, it's not the case here. Milwaukee has certainly opened us up, has welcomed us in with open arms, and we've become familiar with the town in a very quick process, whether it's community building or business needs or various areas of resources or lack thereof. And the near west side, we think, is an incredible part of the overall city that can support what it is that we hope to do. Our business is in the business of other businesses, and I know that sounds a bit too circular, but any good real estate developer is vested naturally in the health and well-being of their tenants. And you can take the route of a, let's call it, higher capital project that sometimes leads to displacement and gentrification, and you're really just focused on those businesses. What's different with our model is that the businesses of our business are really focused on that community and that community to start around improving food access, integrating with the local youth so that they can understand where things come from and where they go, and then lastly, creating sustainable jobs. The near west side is geographically ideal in terms of creating this business to business community center. It's an area that can certainly become a beacon for the food community. And it's an area that we've now chose to heavily invest into. So As you guys may or may not know, it's been coined the Milwaukee Food Tech Incubator. I probably actually called it that just to get something out there. We do have a proper name in the works down the road, something that's more synonymous with what the Near West Side embodies. But this is going to serve as that beacon for the whole community I mentioned, and we can keep it moving forward. The vision is to bring together for-profit local food businesses under one roof
Hmm.
in partnership with local nonprofits and the surrounding neighborhood. Ultimately, this will showcase our ecosystem approach and improve access to fresh, healthy food in the area. Uh,
Mm.
Obviously, as I said before, this is timely. We have become hyper relevant, and I
Mm.
think it's all the more reason that projects like this need to forge ahead and serve as a beacon not just for the community members but for other businesses. So we promote continuity and that resilience that's needed to carry us through the COVID effects.
So that would lead me then to my next question, and I'm hoping, Chris, you can speak to two different groups, and maybe you have to take them separately. But the first group is just in general the community, those who may not have necessarily have the resources, but after listening to your project and they have maybe they want some additional questions answered, but they do have a desire to support it in some way, but they're a local resident or local business and they may not have as much resource or connections. What would you tell the people who just, hey man, I'm a person that wants to be able to buy food locally, and I'm concerned about how our supply chain and how our city is set up right now. And then the other group I would love if you have is the folks who may have some network or have resources. What do you need um, to really get going and make this I'm not going to say dream because I think you've done so much that it's becoming a reality, but help it continue to be a reality. That's something that we could see in our near future. So how would you speak to those two different groups?
Absolutely. Well, generally, we look at things through like a three C's model. So there's, with respect to getting our job done, there's capital, there's the customer, and then obviously there's the community. The first aspect that you touched on is really the community, and how can they participate and be heard and have access to the current needs of food. And what we're doing right now is we're pulling together sort of a coalition or an alliance of partners that embody this supply chain resilience movement. And these partners, unlike us, are local. They are existing. They are established. And we're hoping that this connection can then become a resource before we even exist, because it's going to take some time for us to physically create a space. And we want that resource to be front and center for the folks that are looking for outlets and looking for ways to be educated and also to then have some purchasing power to get access to food. We're hoping that we're going to serve as sort of a liaison to these communities before we even break ground, because with any development, you have to first start with business relationships, and we want to pass those business relationships on to the individual within the community who otherwise would not be aware of them. So we're hoping to, come July, offer a resource page on our website that can point people to the opportunities that other folks in Milwaukee that are doing things today can pass that on to the folks in the Near West Side. I hope that answered your
Oh,
first question.
yeah. And for those who want more information, for those who want to understand the vision, where do they go? Who do they talk to?
Uh, I mean, honestly, right now I'm the point person. That I'm in the trenches. I'm thinking about this every day. I'm immediately responsive to all folks that reach out. You can go to our website, which is planet2plate.org, and you'll see my contact information there, and you could shoot me a quick note. As I mentioned before, there's sort of those three C's, and our biggest focus and quite frankly a concern right now is around capital and the customers. Everyone knows that the supply chain was disrupted, but more importantly, the customer segments are in disarray. Community benefit platforms like this are anchored by the customers buying food. Our goal, our prerogative is to have a for-profit generation cycle back into the community. And we can only do that if we find happy and healthy customers looking to buy the food. So, you know, pre-COVID and quite frankly in 2019, the big focus was going after major sectors like the hospitality group, major sectors like education and the cafeterias. And right now with them being on hold, you know, we want to make sure that we can move forward confidently on the future of our customers. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be just as many mouths eating just as many greens. The real challenge is figuring out what that new pipeline looks like. So if anyone has thoughts or ideas on how to support the customer and that engagement, we'd be really excited to talk through that. It's challenging, it's scary, but we can liken it to the Wild West almost, where there's sort of this new gold rush around food to the consumer and new ways of doing that. And then on the other side of things, it's around capital. And obviously, as with any development project, there's traditional ways in which these deals get done. And I think that's even going to be thought a bit differently now. Real estate value, lending procedures, for-profit philanthropy. How is the investors' sentiment going to change now that their eyes have been opened to how fragile we were in doing things just with a profit mind and not around people and planet? So folks that are interested in the triple bottom line, folks that are interested in investing, folks that have a knowledge base on opportunity zones in the near west side, we're inviting you to invest and participate in this. It's not just about your dollars, of course that helps, but frankly, it's about getting behind this movement.
Chris, first of all, I just want to say thank you for this conversation.